spoilers. This is going to be a lot of spoilers here. So if you haven't seen Psycho Pass, maybe skip forward a couple of minutes while I go through some spoilers. I'll try and get them all into this next 2-minute section. You've had your chance from now. So
the real villain was Sam spoiling Psycho Pass.
Sam spoilers.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Gateway to Anime. How are you all? What's going on? We are the podcast where we try and throw open the gates to anime, where we deep dive into the classics, as well as bring you all the best new anime. Ever wanted to get into anime but didn't know where to start? We are the podcast for you. If you want to check us out on our Instagram, you can do so. You can also find us on TikTok, YouTube, where hopefully you're watching this episode. But if you want to listen to us on any of the podcast platforms, you can go and give us a review on Spotify and or Apple. Really does make a massive difference. Just click 5 stars. All you got to do takes literally 5 seconds. But it does make a huge difference. Anyway, Charlie, how you going?
I'm pretty good. I'm feeling like I'm excited to get into today's episode. So a personal favorite topic of mine.
What?
Yeah.
That's all she talks about.
I feel deeply passionately about it. Don't know why I said it like that.
That's strange.
Yep, bit weird of me, but no, I'm excited. It's always fun to talk about anime and anime villains. Sorry.
Great. Graeme, how are you, mate?
I wish I had a platform to talk about anime and
It's never happens.
things of that nature. No one's ever thought about it. Yeah, good. I'm also excited to talk about this subject, so let's dive in, I think.
Absolutely. Today we are talking about anime villains and the nature of villainhood in general. What makes a good one? What makes a bad one? What makes one relatable? What makes one hateable? Is that better? Is it worse? Or like most things, is it just pure subjectivity and fancy to the whims of human nature? The answer is almost certainly yes.
But before we go any further, Sam, I believe we've got a shout out to a certain sponsor of ours.
So today's episode is brought to you by Mercari. Ever wanted to own unique collectible items from Japan? Well, Mercari x Japan, you can do just that. Check out the link in our bio for more, and we'll be back to tell you more about it later in the episode. Yes, well, today we are going to talk about the villains of anime. And let me tell you, there's a wide range of them.
There's a few.
Yeah.
A few villains.
Takes all sorts, doesn't
All
it?
sorts to make
Takes
up
all
anime.
sorts. It really does.
I mean, name an anime that doesn't have a villain.
Bocce the Rock.
I mean, is a villain maybe social anxiety?
Whoa.
Meta commentary.
Meta commentary. True.
Not the villain. You know,
The
she
true
embraces
enemies were
it.
the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
No, well, I guess we're just going to start talking today a little bit about, like, who are our favorite villains? And then that'll lead us into a bit more of a natural conversation about, like, what it is that interests us about them. Because often, the villain is the more interesting character than the protagonist. But sometimes they're two-dimensional and they suck. So it's a whole thing here. But also, if you want to check out a video I did quite a while ago, early on in our YouTube days, you can check out my top 3 antagonists of all time in anime. Check that video out, and one of those characters will be talked about again today. But check that out for a little bit more of a deep dive into what I think makes a great antagonist. But we're talking villains. Slight difference here. An antagonist, just so we can clear this up before we even start, an antagonist is simply a character who is in opposition to the protagonist. That's what an antagonist is. A villain, a little bit different, does imply a sense of
Villainy?
Thank you, Charlotte. Machiavelli's here.
Twiddling.
Mustache twiddling. I mean, it's sense evil's that's also too simplistic. There's antagonists are often villains, but sometimes villains aren't antagonists. It can change.
Yeah, like a great example is Light Yagami.
Light Yagami.
From Death Note, because obviously would be in a show the protagonist, but is certainly a villain. Is a villainous
100%.
character.
So isn't an
that's,
antagonist.
Yeah, I mean, there's debate. I mean, you can't think that Light. I mean, I remember back in the day, people used to argue that he's not a villain.
Oh,
And I was like, how do you, if we
Ludicrous.
watch the same show? Like, I'm so confused.
Edgelords.
So in that regard, L is the antagonist to his protagonist.
So that's a very good example. So anyone who hasn't watched Death Note, well,
get on it. It's been a few years.
it's been a while.
I reckon I want to rewatch it.
Actually, be an interesting exercise, wouldn't it? Because it's been so long since I've watched the whole thing all the way through. But yeah, the perfect example of the antagonist of Death Note is the good guy, if you want to get basic sort of, just literary fiction telling terms. And the protagonist is a villain, but obviously not an antagonist. So yeah, that's sort of the differentiation there.
And that's
Obviously,
it's not as clean cut in that show either. I mean, they're not like all cops are great. Like that's not actually the storyline of Death Note either. But in terms of like just villainy, I think light might win.
Let's start off on this topic then, because I guess what I think makes a really great villain is relatability. So obviously, you get Game of Thrones. Let's just use Game of Thrones as an example here, right? Like the classic, like villain who just everyone loves to hate, which don't get me wrong, can be great. Like, D&D, when there's a big conversation in the D&D world about all this sort of thing. Is it better to have a villain like, say, Strahd in The Curse of Strahd, very famous module from D&D? He is actually, in a weird way, incredibly charming, incredibly charismatic, but stone cold villain does evil shit. So in Game of Thrones, for example, Ramsay Bolton, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sadistic,
Good one.
horrifying, disgusting villain. Very little. It was like, oh, your dad didn't love him. Don't care. Like, not justified for all your sadism and horrendous behavior. Joffrey Baratheon, another one who's like a classic, like love to hate villain. Very little going in his favor.
Yep.
But Jaime Lannister. Okay, now we're starting to be like, well, this guy sucks. I don't like him, but
Hang on.
interesting.
I'm sorry. It's basically just like, is he hot or not? Like that's it, right? Like that's what you just listed.
Is
to
that what I
me.
just listed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Strahd's hot. Strahd's a hottie. Isn't he meant to be like Dracula?
Well, he's Dracula, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
what
like,
hot.
he's whatever your imagination
So
believes
he's hot,
him to
so
be.
he equals good
Hot, or like just people are a bit more sympathetic.
to hotness.
To hotness?
All right.
People love hot villains. That's fair to say.
That is true.
I was making a joke and I've had to back myself. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
kidding
Now you're in,
around.
now you're in.
Yourself in
but
a corner.
I mean, I think maybe there is actually some juice here. Maybe like the idea of like a charismatic villain.
Yes.
Whereas
yes.
opposed to the other one, what's like the big bad evil guy who's just like I'm a literal monster. Like
hulking,
I'm an ogre.
yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm just going to come in and like a Titan in Attack on Titan who's just
Yeah.
Anyway.
Who's not
Yeah.
hot.
Not hot. Well,
There was that one that was like leaning.
All
that?
right.
Was he?
With a bit of shoulder action.
It was pretty hot.
Yeah, okay.
this is
Sorry.
taking a terrible left-hand turn. I'm going to write this wrong. Well, let's talk about some relatable villains in anime.
Oh, relatable.
Relatable.
Yeah, those who could. Well, I'll start if you want,
Okay,
you want to do this.
yeah, let's go.
Okay, so for me, probably my favorite ever villain / antagonist in anime is Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass. Now, I do talk about this in my YouTube video, which you can check out. It's a little bit more comprehensive, but I'll talk about Psycho Pass and Makishima now because he's the perfect example of a villain who, like, you actually sit there and go, wow, kind of agree with almost all of your points. But the way that you go about it is objectively terrible.
Yeah.
It's like he's basically, so for those who don't know Psycho Pass, we talked about this well back in the day, like in our 3rd or 4th ever episode.
Been a while.
Our Seinen episode, before we even started recording these for YouTube. But Psycho Pass is essentially set in a world where it's like Minority Report sort of on steroids. Everything is run by what is known as the Sybil system. And the Sybil system regulates everything in society. It literally sorts you into jobs. It sorts and regulates everything, and it sorts and runs your emotions. The difference between Minority Report and Psycho Pass is that Minority Report sort of has like clairvoyance and that it sees things coming, like with the kind of future readers. Psycho Pass just simply reads your biometrics and can tell when your energy and your urge to kill is rising, and then it will dispatch the police force.
I think my iPhone does that now.
It's already happening, Gray. So the police force, and what's interesting about the police force is that they are regulated into inspectors and enforcers. So the inspectors are those who have the clearest hue. So the psychopaths, they're like the most pure of mind people in society. And in this world, being an inspector is one of the most sought after, highest profile jobs you can have. But of course, to counteract the fact that they're dealing with violence and having to do kind of, borderline things which might make them feel hate, which they can't do, because then their psychopaths will turn on them and they'll become a criminal. We have the enforcers. The enforcers are latent criminals whose job is to go out and do the dirty work of the inspectors because they're already compromised. So they have these weapons called dominators. And the dominator's job is to, you point it at them and it's all very, 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 it's all cyberpunk. It's all futuristic. And it's like Blade Runner. It's like Ghost in the Shell. It's like Cyberpunk 2077. It's all of these kind of aesthetics. And it reads them and will then adjudicate what's to be done. If they're only just past, they're like, say someone's really angry in a bar fight and they want to smack you, it'll stun you. But if you are at the point where you're looking to kill somebody, it will target you for elimination. Now, what Makishima's character is someone who, now, spoilers, there's going to be a lot of spoilers here, so if you haven't seen Psycho Pass, maybe skip forward a couple of minutes while I go through some spoilers. I'll try and get them all into this next 2-minute section. You've had your chance from now. So
The real villain was Sam spoiling Psycho Pass.
Some spoilers.
the great twist of this, and the great twist of Psycho Pass, is the fact that he's seemingly out there not being read. He's committing these crimes and like the system isn't picking him up. What's going on? How has this happened? Well, it turns out that the Dominator can't read him. And that's like the big twist. But his whole point is that society is now lost all shred of individuality. We've lost creativity's being stamped out. We're just becoming mindless drones, slaves to a system. And you're like, I'm listening.
Mhm.
I'm listening.
Yep.
Cool, man. Yeah, individuality, human creativity. Yeah, love it, dude. Keep talking to me. He's like, yeah, so now I'm going to start killing people to prove a point. Like, yeah, you're losing me now, mate. He's just a great example of a character who has a grand ideal, which you can totally relate to and totally understand
Yep.
as an audience member, but he then starts doing things which you're like, wow, you're a villain now. You know, like you can't justify killing innocent people just to prove your point. But if you want to start getting into real ethical conversations, there is, of course, the classic debate between Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, which is the age-old philosophical question of, is it okay to sacrifice, say, 1,000 people to save 1 million people? It's the trolley cart question, right? 1 person or 4? What do you choose? We're not going to dive into ethical, debate about morals and ethics, but it is a great question because you can argue these points forever and you can understand why Makishima is doing what he's doing and why he is trying to overthrow a system. And if it's like, well, if it means a couple of innocent lives are sacrificed, so be it. And it's a fair ethical argument to mount. But what I love about that show is I still, to this day, think he is one of the best written villains, antagonists in anime history. I think he's fantastic. And I think it is a perfect example of a character that you can really get behind. You can kind of root for him, but you also root against him. That's well balanced.
He's got a good point. The way you're going, again, like, and this is a very common trope for these kind of characters, going about it terribly too far gone in one way that it's just like, now we can't back you. But like the real villain was the system.
Yes.
Like that's the thing.
Yes.
It's like the thing was wrong and what kind of, and even the protagonist like realizes that. And then always the villain's like, we're not that dissimilar, you and I. Like, that's like, every time, like, we're not that dissimilar.
Well, the entire premise of Psycho Pass Season 1 is that Kogami and him are literally 2 sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? It's just one goes about it one way, one goes about the other. Kogami, interesting character because the enforcers that I mentioned before, he used to be an inspector, but in chasing Makishima, became so obsessed with taking him down and so angry and had such hate-filled thoughts towards this serial killer. His hue became clouded and he wanted to kill him. And so as a result, he could no longer be an inspector because he wasn't pure of mind and his Psycho Pass reading became too high. Now, it's such an interesting show. I think, unfortunately, the later seasons in the movies, I've watched them all. I've kept going with it somehow. It's not easy to do. They're quite hard to find. But I just think that it's such a goddamn shame that they didn't just end it at Season 1 because, my God, it was good.
Season 1's
That's a
great.
good one.
Yeah. You put me onto it, actually.
I did. Like most good things. Sorry.
You have no taste, is what she said.
I'm going to come in with something that is, I know you were asking for a sympathetic villain. You know, people you're like, who's got a point? I'm going to bring a character who just definitely doesn't have a point at all.
Oh, so we're going the inverse now?
Yeah, I'm going to come with I think it's a good conversation point to like counter what you said. And I'll bring up someone I probably sympathize with and you all judge me forever and be like, why do you sympathize with that character? I'm like, no, this one I don't. This character you're not meant to sympathize with. You're literally not at all. This character is, of course, Johan Liebert from Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of characters that are literally just meant to like personify evil, he is that. He is the titular monster.
He's the devil.
He is the devil. He is someone that lacks empathy. He's someone who is unfortunately incredibly intelligent, calculated. He dedicates his entire life to pretty much like fucking over this one guy and everyone around him as well. He's a killer. He has no empathy. He longs to destroy the world, basically. And so those who have not seen Monster, I'll give you a quick little, you should really watch it. It's on Netflix actually at the moment.
Outstanding.
One of the best animes ever made. And obviously the manga, again, got a prop here. Here's Monster. Johan's not on this, so just ignore that. But this is Tenma.
His sister is though.
Yeah, his sister's there, twins, so close enough. The thing about Tenma is that he is a surgeon, one of the best surgeons in the world, who is currently, in the start of the series, working as a surgeon in a very well-established hospital in Germany, in which he happens to also be dating the director of the hospital's daughter. So he's very much like, his life's looking like it's going real good. He's going to get that big promotion. He thinks he's engaged to a lovely girl. Is he? Oh, we'll see. Anyway, basically, long story short, he gets in a bit of trouble because he keeps on going against wishes of the director to basically, if he works in the emergency ward, if someone comes in, then he will prioritize whoever needs the most medical attention first, whereas the hospital will lean towards if someone's like a VIP or if someone is like giving them money or that kind of thing, and they should get preference. So because he's the best surgeon, they keep pulling him out of ones that he's already in to, and then like often there's other doctors that aren't as good, so people will die and he feels really guilty. So he has like this is a protagonist, yeah. So Tenma has like a bit of a moral dilemma there. And then one night there's 2 accidents that happen. There is a car accident with, I think it's the mayor.
It's the mayor.
And then there is a car accident that then there is a house that there has been a murder, and there's 2 little kids who have also been found gravely injured, right?
One of the twins has been shot in the head.
Yes. So one of the twins, a little boy, has been shot in the head. The little girl is like deeply traumatized, and the 2 parents are dead, gruesomely killed.
Yes.
The boy gets brought in at the same time as the mayor, and basically against the director's wishes, Tenma is meant to be leaving the scrub in for the little boy to go do the mayor, but he's just like, no, I can't like let this little boy die. I will do this surgery. Saves the little boy's life, ruins his life in the process though, because he gets fired from his job.
He gets sort of sidelined.
Not fired, but he doesn't get the promotion because he's not special anymore. His fiance breaks up with him. She's pretty rude. We'll say that. She's not a
Interesting
nice
character.
lady.
Yeah.
Is maybe a villain also.
Relatable one in the end. But anyway.
Yeah. So basically years go by. He doesn't really think about this much at all, but he's kind of like, you know what? It was all worth it because I saved a little boy's life. Lol, sucked in. Sorry, that's Anyway, as
lol jokes.
Lol. Oh, why am I like this? Anyway, flash forward. Everyone's grown up. It turns out that the child whose life he saved is Johan, this villain. Oh, by the way, spoilers for Monster. If you don't want to know anything about Monster, please stop for maybe next minute or so. I'll try and keep this short, sharp.
It.
No, that's the opening scene.
That is the opening episode.
That's the opening scene. Okay, give it a minute from now. Great. Yes, it turns out that the little boy that he saved the life of is Johan, who turns out to be one of the greatest anime villains of all time, and is somebody who dedicates his entire life to making, he just hates Tenma, hates his sister. They've kind of separated their siblings, and she doesn't know. But anyway, it turns out that I think is this a massive spoiler that it's the reason he got shot in the head is because his sister shot him because he keeps on murdering their foster parents.
Correct.
But basically, he's just left a trail of destruction wherever he's gone. He has no empathy. He's pretty much the worst person you're ever going to come up against.
In that first episode as well, when Tenma is getting ready to do the operation, the sister, who has also been injured, she literally, the only thing she's saying on repeat, almost in a trance, is please, please, please kill, please kill, please kill my brother. It's a classic consequentialist philosophy here. You know what I mean? Versus deontology, of course, which is the difference is, the consequence is always the thing that matters. Whereas deontology is it's the actual idea of something being virtuous or good in and of itself. If we're going to talk sort of Kantian level philosophy, that is the thing. And he takes that route. He picks, he's no. The right thing to do is to work on a kid because he's got the whole world in front of him. And I was here first. Therefore, I'm making that decision.
And that is, I think, a correct decision.
Well, you could make this. Philosophers have debated this for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very interesting. It is very interesting. It's a great show. Great. One of my favorites. One of my top 5 of all time.
Yeah, very eerie, very good cat and mouse. The way that you kind of don't really see him very often in the show.
He's more of an idea in many ways.
Yeah, and I like the design. He looks very cold and like very kind of like there's no warmth there, and he looks just like a normal young guy. He looks like a normal young man,
Very
like,
handsome.
which again, that's why he's
Get
just
it
hot.
now.
Ah,
Get it.
yeah, you understand where
It's
Charlie's
good looking.
coming from.
He's not like he's I think he's just a very the idea of him and the hype up of him and the build up and like just the little things that he does. I love you is always like 10 steps ahead of everyone. Like unfortunately super genius, evil, like just an unstoppable force basically at all times. And yeah, I think that that's one of my favorite villains in anime for sure. The other one that rings actually, they're kind of dissimilar actually. I was saying maybe just because in character design they're similar, but I was thinking of Griffith.
Oh, Griffith and Berserk.
From Berserk.
Well,
who is again
absolutely
who's more of a smiling villain at the start. That they're friends at the start. He's more of a it's kind
He's
of
almost a dual protagonist at the start.
yeah, and then that like big betrayal, one of the worst in anime history. Again, spoiler for Berserk.
Berserk as well.
Whole episode full of spoilers,
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah.
FYI. I mean, Griffith. Let's talk about that. Actually,
Let's talk about
because let's talk about Griffith because obviously you're a huge Berserk guy.
I never trusted the guy.
No, it always felt a bit too good to be true.
It's
Didn't
that
it?
really pretty, slight killer type. But you're just like, I don't trust you. I know you're saying all the right things and you talk about being a leader and want to be a king, but I don't trust you. I don't trust you.
But he was hot again. That's what happened.
He was he was so androgynous though. Like he was kind of a thing more than a person.
Like
he was-
otherworldly beauty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which is, of course, what ends up happening to him. Of course, he ascends to become a demon at the expense of all of his crew and best friends who he sacrifices in the most horrific way possible.
Yeah.
The eclipse it's a shame it hasn't been animated well.
I don't even know how you do it.
But I must say, even though a lot of people hang shit on the 3 movies, the Golden Age arc movies, I actually thought they handled the eclipse relatively well. I thought that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So long story short, obviously Griffith, the leader of the Band of the Hawk, the charismatic and possibly, ethereal beauty, otherworldly, leading his crew of sort of, it's a bit of a slipshod, kind of ragtag bunch, but he is their almost unstoppable leader. And of course, also, can we talk about the fact that it's kind of almost semi-queer relationship between him and Guts in many ways?
You mean semi? It's entirely, I think.
Entirely.
I mean, it's definitely coded that way.
It's coded, yeah. It's not overt.
Not explicit in terms of like there's not
They don't hook up or anything.
but there is so much tension between those two, and it's so obvious that like Guts views Griffith in a way that is like idolizing, and and then Griffith also it definitely plays into that. They like wash each other's feet.
Yeah.
That's a Jesus thing though.
Yeah.
So that's a biblical reference that happens in Death Note as well.
Oh my
That's
God.
true, actually, yeah. That's
Yeah.
true.
Doesn't Judas wash Jesus' feet?
Yes.
I assume so. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's the
They
large
don't
one.
just have foot fetish in those shows. But I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like washing each other or, that kind of thing is like an ultimate sign of trust, that you trust someone to do that. And then that's like so if anyone ever offers to wash anything of you, they're probably going to betray you in a horrific way
They're a
soon
villain.
after.
They're a villain.
They're a villain.
Absolute
Unless you're
villain.
paying someone to do it, they're a villain.
They're a
Okay, if someone
villain.
offers to wash your feet, villain.
Nope.
All right.
just your feet. Like
We've
nothing
learned
else.
this. We've learned this already.
Yeah. Unless they're good looking, then you can do what you want.
Then that's fine.
Down by the river. It's fine.
But yeah, so what do you guys think of like Griffith? Do you think he's like, because he's at the start he's
Relatable?
semi-relatable, but then he just becomes like the epitome.
I don't even
of
think he's
evil.
relatable at the start,
I
is
suppose
he?
he's not, is
No, he's like never
Because he's on such a
relatable.
pedestal,
he? Yeah.
and the only reason that he becomes a full-fledged villain is because I guess Guts dumps him,
Yeah. Straight him down.
and then he goes to the princess and forces himself on her
Mm-hmm.
because I guess it's the ownership
Yep.
that he feels he's lost, and then he's just basically just shoved in the dungeon, and he really sees his fall from grace. But I don't think he's.
He's not a relatable.
don't
He's a
think he's
good
relatable,
example
right?
of. He's a good
Someone we
example of a
love to
hateful villain.
hate.
Yeah, eventually. Because at the start, though, you kind of like, you don't love him or anything because he's, again, you're right. He feels like he's not real in many ways. But like, he is like the leader that you're following, and you might feel like there's something off with him, but it's not as if he doesn't
Oh, no.
start.
No, he doesn't
yeah.
start that way.
Yeah, you
No,
know, like.
it's a horrible, but really well done betrayal. Like
It is,
that's one of the great ones. But he is a famously like I think just like a fully hateable villain.
100%.
Like you're just like, oh, I hate that guy. Like,
Yeah.
and I love to hate villains. Like, yeah, because Johan's actually not that hateable. Like he is hateable
Does
in a
some
big
vile
way, but
things,
like
yeah.
he's not. It's kind of interesting, like the way he kind of navigates it. He's not like annoying hateable, and neither is Griffith. Annoying hateable is like Mahito from
Mahito.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Perfect example
And-
of a love to hate villain,
Yeah,
irredeemable in every single way.
Really good though. Like I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
felt as annoyed or pissed off at a character in a long time. Then that's when I realized he actually is a good villain.
Oh, he's so slippery. So
And
slippery.
I was like, oh, because I was like, fuck, I can't. I'm so angry right now. I was like, oh, it's because it's a good,
because he's a good villain.
He is an excellent villain.
But he's not creepy to me. I mean, he's creepy because he's fucking.
He's not creepy.
No, but he's not like there are villains who are like creepy. Griffin.
He spits
Griffith?
up people things. And
Yeah, look,
Was
look,
he-
okay. But in my head, he's not creepy. Like, you know who's the creepiest?
Oh, who's
Promised Neverland.
Isabella.
Like that's like to me that's subtle creepiness, not like I'm eating people. Like, you know, sorry, that was my Mahito. yeah. Well, he's sort of that again, like as a class like Esdeath, all those villains who are like get off on people's like
the
pain
sadists,
and
yeah.
sadists and like that really over the top thing, which is great for. Just,
Great,
we
isn't
love
it,
it, which is wonderful. No, but it's like, you know, it's a classic anime villain trope. We couldn't talk
It is,
about
it is,
anime
it is.
villains without talking about those, you know.
Too bad to be even close to being
I love
real.
it.
Yeah, just
No backstory.
yeah,
No sub story after they vanquished him. Just pure menace, pure evil.
yeah,
Here he comes. He's laughing, having a good time. You hate him.
yeah.
So today's episode is brought to you by Mercari. Ever wanted to own unique collectibles directly from Japan? Well, you can find it right on Mercari. We're going to check it out right now and show you how the website works.
It's super easy. If I just jump on Mercari, I can check out Mercari X Japan. I go shop the drop. If I just click here, ordering direct from Japan. We've got figurines, we've got manga. So
yeah, nice.
I'm going to check out some manga. Yeah, so everything that we're looking at right here is actually directly from Japan.
Yeah, look at some figurines.
Yeah, great. Cool. Super easy.
So simple.
Love it. Wow.
So Mercari X Japan, shop the drop. Absolutely. We'll be using this. Thank you, Mercari. Check it out. Link in bio.
Who is the most like quintessential, do you think, just like straight up and down? I mean, Mahito's right up there as like just a awful, sadistic, cruel villain.
They're never the main villain. That's the thing. They're never the
Yeah.
ultimate villain in a series. They're always an offsider because I feel like creators and mangakas and people really want to give their main villain a big backstory. So like, you know, who's the main villain? Jujutsu Kaisen, I guess it's
Sukuna.
yeah, but not in this. They're not on the same team. You know, really. Like it's kind of a difference. Again, like it's Sukuna. But
Everyone loves Sukuna.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's another great character because he's strong and like in his own lane
cool.
and he is cool.
He's hot.
Exactly. Again, I'm telling you, this is the whole fucking thing. But I think that it's really rare to have a main villain be that like over the top. Like I'm gonna carve you. Like even who's the girl from My Hero Academia with the blood?
Toga.
Yeah, like Toga, like those kind of obsessive yandere girls.
Yes. They're a
I
classic
guess
trope.
Esdeath is a main villain,
Yes.
but she's not quite as like
It's pretty bad.
yeah.
Can you explain what a yandere is to people?
So we've talked about this bit in just tropes of anime characters and a yandere or a yandere or yandere. I actually don't know how to say it, and someone should correct me because I have been embarrassing myself for years by saying yandere wrong.
Somebody will.
Yandere.
Yandere.
So basically, it's a trope of a character who appears sweet and quiet at the start, but then happens to be like deathly obsessed with a main character and like is like a stalker, usually like sexually kind of like a bit grotesque and full on with them, but in a way that is like they're more likely to collect your hair and make a crown.
Yeah, and
You
they're
know,
always very
like-
violent. Very, very violent.
Very violent, but like not, but you would, but in a like kind of with like a sweet, usually a cutesy kind of undertone thing.
Really creepy.
Yeah. So obviously I think we talked about this before, but is it Future Diary has like the main kind of version
Mirai
of this,
Nikki,
but
yeah.
she's not actually a villain in that story.
No. But
She's
she is a
actually
yandere,
but there's so they have a yandere villain is like another whole thing. I'd say Hisoka gets to that level from
Mostly a
Hunter x
female.
Hunter.
It's mostly a female trope, though.
No,
for
male
female characters.
yandere is a whole thing.
It is a whole
It's
thing.
a whole genre.
Yeah, Hisoka's definitely one of those.
But the truly unhinged villains are often the like sub villain. I think that's
Yes.
fair to say.
All for One, though, is the worst villain. And like Shigaraki, despite being the ultimate villain in the end, he's much more sympathetic.
I would say Shigaraki's the main villain of that show though. Like it's like saying All Might
Whoa.
because he's like a Definitely. It's like Deku and Shigaraki are like
They're the two.
They're the
He's
two.
the antagonist.
He's
for
an
sure.
antagonist, but he's also the main villain in the end.
I guess, but I mean, All for One is the one literally like pulling all the strings.
Yeah,
behind
no,
it,
true. If
like-
actually, in terms of how we've decided to say this, and yeah, you're not wrong, but he's definitely a main villain. He's an
Yes,
antagonist.
But he's a good example.
He's
of
a great villain though.
All for One.
No, Shigaraki.
Shigaraki's excellent.
Yeah, I think a lot of the villains, like, we've got a whole fucking league of them we can talk about from My Hero.
My Hero, they handle the villains very well, actually. I mean,
yeah.
All for One's the only one who's like comically mustache twirling evil. And it's just like, I want all the power in the world. And it's
I'm such a basic bitch. I just like the fact that he's called All for One instead of One for All. I went, clever. And then I went, so good. I get it now, guys. And then
it's the Three Musketeers.
I was like, oh. But speaking of, let's talk about shonen villains because they're really different. Because I
Yes.
think that Bleach, really great villain, Aizen.
Aizen, one of the best.
Again, spoiler for Bleach.
Oh, come on. If they haven't watched Bleach by now, it's like...
This is a gateway to anime. This could be someone's first gateway anime podcast experience.
You're right. And like, unfortunately, because often really good villains are the ones that are secretly villains, you know, who like I do the big bait and switch, like Griffin style, Griffith style.
Well, Gray, actually, let's talk about this because I think this is a really interesting point because now obviously the 1,000 Year Blood War, the final arc is being animated really well. It's excellent. And next season, we're going to get the next round. It's coming up in just about a month and a half.
Yep.
So let's talk about the difference between Aizen, who I think is an excellent, one of the best villains of all time,
Oh, I think so.
versus Yahweh, who I think is actually quite pretty boring.
I think what works for Aizen more is the whole Soul Society arc where he's not in 90% of it, or he's not revealed to be the villain. Was murdered. He was the captain. He was found by his lieutenant, murdered.
And he had his disguise on, which was his hair pushed forward and some glasses.
It's the Superman.
Genius.
Pulled his hair back. I was like, he's hot. He must be a villain.
He's hot.
Oh.
I can change him.
Unless he hypnotizes me.
So I think it's also the betrayal of the Soul Society arc, of the whole
Yeah.
Soul Society with what's the other one? Tenzin and
It's
can't
Tosin and Jin.
Tosin. Yeah.
Jean, who I love.
So I think there's also that little bit of betrayal, and then it's like this real power ramp where you're like, oh, no one was prepared for how evil and
Insanely OP he was.
how OP and how intelligent he was as well.
Yes.
His goals are just nonsense.
Typical
shonen
villain.
anime. I want to break the Soul Society. Like, why?
Because I want infinite power. You're like, cool.
Yeah. But I think is like a breadcrumb trail of Aizen becoming the villain was fantastic.
I'm gonna ask someone to defend something from Naruto to me, or just explain it to me.
Is it going to be Itachi becoming the bad guy? 'Cause I've been trying to explain that for years to people, and they're like, he murdered his whole family? Oh, right. You like this guy? And I'm like, yeah, I really do.
When you asked to think of like someone who is relatable, I nearly said Itachi, and then I went, "How is that relatable?" I meant to say like
This elite ninja
understand-
cop who murders his family. So relatable.
It's
So like me.
He's so me. But I think what I meant by that was that he isn't really a villain in my eyes in the end. Their real enemy was the government.
I mean,
the
No, you're not wrong.
No, and like he
and his own stupidity, I guess.
he did the best he
Naivety,
could.
Naivety and all the stupidity.
Yeah, he like couldn't bring himself to do it. And he spent years repenting, and then was like, was getting revenge against the Leaf Village. And spoiler for Naruto, fuck. But and another spoiler for Naruto. Speaking of that same clan, please somebody explain to me: does Obito make any sense as a villain?
No.
Nah, not really.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out if people liked this or not. I was looking it up because I was like, I remember being like, hang on, what happened? Like his
crushed by a
friend
rock.
died when they were kids. And I was like, you are in, like everyone dies in this show. Like, God, fuck.
So I guess...
Like, no, sorry, not to be callous. Like it sucked. He blamed himself for her death and like,
yes, and
that's
blame
not
Kakashi
great.
in the system and the whole...
Yeah,
Again,
which
it's
he's,
just-
he's probably not entirely wrong about that, but it seemed like for that character who was very much like a go-getter, I'll do anything to like, the flashbacks, he's very much mirroring like Naruto, that
100%,
kind
yeah.
of style, like very like, I'll do anything to like, I'm going to beat my genius friend. And like, yeah, it just seemed like a bit of a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Someone defend it to me. I don't know. Or are we all agreeing here?
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Naruto, of course, what's interesting about big long-running shonens, like we just said with Bleach, why I said to Graeme about Aizen versus Yahweh, because obviously they run for so long,
Yep.
the primary antagonists and villains change all the time. In early Naruto, it was obviously Orochimaru was the main villain. Then, of course, it changed to Tobi, who was revealed to be Obito. And then, of course, it was Madara. And then it was the worst part was Kaguya, which is a classic thing while we're on this topic, because it's a classic thing and it happens for those of you who ever played Final Fantasy VIII. And of course, JRPGs, huge crossovers here, lots of storytelling, lots of guys working on the same sort of things with terms of animation and whatnot. So a classic thing in Final Fantasy VIII is you're against this villain for the whole game. And then right at the very end, it's like, by the way, there's actually someone above me pulling the strings. I wasn't a villain at all. And you're like, well, I don't give a fuck about this person. Like, it's like, oh, now you need to shift all the hatred and like vitriol and all the story that we've built up together over the course of like a full 70-hour game. By the way, lol, jokes, it's actually this guy. And it's like, that's exactly what happened in Naruto with Madara, is that and Obito on the way to him and whatnot. It's like, by the way, there's actually been this moon woman pulling the strings all the time. Ha ha ha. And you're just like, who?
Yeah.
What? Terrible. So that's one thing. But to go back to your question, Obito was obviously Kakashi, who is Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. That's how much of a character. That's how shit she is as a character. Forgot her name. Their sensei, who in his 3-man team was with a very Naruto-like character who was part of the Uchiha, which is Sasuke and Itachi's Sharingan family. Of course, presumed dead, Kakashi got his eye, and then he was actually brought back by Madara to help begin this whole war. It's very complex.
Even the Madara bit's fucking
The Madara bit's
on its
also
own.
super complex, and Zetsu, again, it really tangles itself up in knots.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, do I think Obito's justification of his best friend Rin being killed by Kakashi because it had to be done, it wasn't as if he did it out of cold blood or anything, it was like an actual, had to be done for the war. Look, the whole show is really an anti-war show in many ways, and even Madara's,
Sounds like it's anti-moon woman.
as it should be.
Well, no, that's Sam.
That's me. Yes. That's why Boruto stinks. Anyway,
But even,
like,
even Pain was just about, hey, war is bad and look what happens to all the kids caught up in war.
100%. And
I thought most shonen are that, right? Except for Aizen, who's like,
so
Yeah.
Bryce
damn
is
it.
like, nah.
He's
I don't like
science,
this
bitch.
place.
What if
this
I
place.
killed everyone? You're like,
Yeah, all
fair
right.
call, bro. Like,
Go for it.
At least he's not trying to be like Madara. Even Madara's whole reason for doing what he was doing was like, I'm going to put everyone into a trance so there's no more war. But I'm going to kill anyone who gets in my way. Let me tell you,
And have a full war.
Millions
Yeah.
of you. You're like, okay, we asked that philosophical question earlier. Which again is something you can sort of, I guess you can try and get behind. Madara's kind of reasoning is like, well, what's a few million people for the whole world? The answer's a lot, but
And
I don't know.
Orochimaru is just like wanting to live forever, right?
Yeah.
pretty
And that's another, like, I feel like there's a couple of, villain motivations. A lot of them are like anti-war, but not really, but also you accidentally kill more people, like been fucked over by system revenge stories, or they want to be immortal. That's another
Immortal.
huge, like, or they're, there's a bunch of other genres as well.
It's the whole villains of Hell's Paradise, right? Want to live forever. Yeah. It's Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Full Metal Alchemist as well.
100% father.
And before we get onto that, though, I just want to say that I think my favorite villain in the whole of Naruto is actually, he's not, to me, he's not a villain, is Zabuza.
Oh, I love
You know why?
Zabuza.
Because speaking of relatable villains, I think it's realized that like him and Haku are actually just ninjas. They just grew up somewhere else where that this was the norm for them, and like they're just like mirror images of what like Leaf Village does as well. And
Yes.
it's like you ain't much better than us. Like you're also hired assassins, really, or
Yeah.
like you do the same shit that we do. We're just on the wrong side of each other, and like we've had this kind of hardship. It was interesting. Yeah, is that the point of that, or did I misread
No,
that?
you did
No, I think
right.
you-
All right, cool.
Spot
And
on.
then the connection he
Everyone's
realized.
like, that was not the point of that whole.
No, 100% it is. And then the relationship he realized he had with Haku, where he was sort of like a father figure. Like, oh look,
So
early,
sad.
early Naruto slaps, dude. Like, of all the big three, Naruto starts so much stronger
Yeah.
than Bleach and One Piece. Not even close. Like, I mean, it falls off. No, Bleach falls off the hardest. But
Yeah, Bleach definitely.
Bleach. That being said, watching the 1,000 Year Blood War,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yahawaka. Yeah, we never talked about him actually, did we?
no, we didn't. But he's another good example of like, I am evil.
I am a big, powerful, evil guy. Here's my mustache. Let's go.
He even has the twirly
A
mustache.
big mustache, like.
If
That's-
you're gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think so.
I
Commit
guess
to
it's
it.
the only way you could go above Aizen, though, right? Is to have someone
think
even
so.
more like he's the Quincy King, right?
Yeah.
So of course there's.
But then
a huge-
spoilers, he's also a kind of a deity as well that's been
Yes.
forced into a body of
Yes.
like it's
Yeah.
his origin is very complicated as well.
Bleach falls apart under the slightest bit of scrutiny.
But it looks great.
It looks great. The fights are awesome. So
Yeah.
we're loving the 1,000-year bubble. But that's why I think Aizen and Yahavaka is very different, because Yahavaka is literally an entity of pure like power
Yeah.
who can literally control the future. It's ridiculous. Even, I mean, Aizen's power was broken, but like Yahavaka is even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I just find him to be quite a boring, and I don't relate to him at all. Not that I relate to Aizen, but I get Aizen.
He's a
'cause
final.
also
He's a
kinda
final
cool.
boss. He's the boss above the boss. That's
yeah,
What you
yeah,
were
yeah.
saying earlier, like that's who he is.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
I think with Fullmetal Alchemist, it's interesting because you're going to have a huge range of villains in that show. Because
Well, now we're talking.
with Fullmetal Alchemist, Brotherhood, and Fullmetal Alchemist, the idea that, the overarching villain is Father Hohenheim, well, not Hohenheim, Father, and that's the main, like, the person pulling the strings, as we said before. But before that, you've got the homunculi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are literally personifications of the sins of humanity. So they are like, and they're not technically, real people, or they are, it turns out. So it's kind of like you've got these like, villains in a true like capital V. I don't know why I was doing jazz hands there, but you know what I mean? Like you've got lust, you've got pride, you've got like glutton, and they're all kind of like big caricatures in a certain way. But they rock. Like they're such good characters.
It is
and
such a good.
But then you've got who I was going to talk about earlier on, like a very like not even a villain, but just something that was like when I first watched this, it was my sort of transition from Naruto, Dragon Ball, and when I saw this chain of events, I was like, oh, anime is actually horrifying, and that's Shou Tucker.
easily the worst villain in the whole of anime history.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen episode 4 of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, please watch it. But also, like, trigger warning through the fucking roof. And it's like such a small character in the grand scheme of
one
things.
episode.
It's really interesting.
But he really kicks off the tone of the show in a way. I mean, they kind of do it in the second episode as well. The fourth episode really kicks it off to go, oh shit, we're not fucking around here. Like this is a bleak ass world, and this is what we're dealing with, and it kind of changes Ed, like the fact that it changes their entire trajectory as well as characters based on what they experience with him and what happens to his daughter. Like it's easily the most horrific kind of, I think in most mediums, I think he would take the top 5 for me of villains of all time in terms of worse things they did.
Yeah.
And people have done worse, not worse. So people have done like killed more people.
100%.
But just something about the way that unfolds and just like it's truly a horrifying character.
Yeah.
It's fascinating though, because like he is so horrendous and he does the most unconscionable thing that any human being could ever do. But it's like,
But it's relatable.
Certainly not relatable.
Sam's relatable.
No, it's not relatable in any way, shape, or form. But it's like,
but
they justify his mindset behind it.
Yeah, totally.
He's obsessed, and again, he's a parallel with Ed because they're obsessed with the science of alchemy. They're obsessed with pushing the boundaries. They're obsessed with becoming, literally pushing the boundaries of humanity and science, and because alchemy and humanity are intrinsically linked.
Yeah.
And the pressure that is shown to be upon these state alchemists, and like that's
For their
bearing down on him.
research
And you see how he make. I mean, no sane person could ever justify making such a horrendous. No, of course not. But it's just really interesting because even
It's
though
in character for that
it's
character.
in character for that character. So this is a
yeah.
really good example of like an excellent villain because he does something so horrendous. And everyone, like the anime community, is like every time someone brings up anyone, someone puts a photo of him, everyone's like, boo! Like, he's just the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to just how King good Fullmetal Alchemist is because
so good.
it makes sense for his character, and you see the decision. He's not just like someone being like, "Ha ha, I love evil."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he's just.
I have overpromised and underdelivered, and the pressure is breaking me.
Yep.
And I do one act that's just horrific. So
Yeah. Well, 2. I mean, he obviously
two.
Two.
Yeah,
yeah.
true,
I
actually.
think it's an interesting one because Fullmetal Alchemist is a rare case in. I think that every single character that's featured on that is fleshed out. Every single one, like including like some random like soldier that
Greek
comes
soldier?
in who's
You're
like,
like-
hey, and they're like they're the greatest storyline. I'll be like, wow, I feel like I know that person. But honestly, like every single villain, every single character on that show has a fucking arc. Arguably, Lust not so much in Brotherhood.
Not in Brotherhood so much.
But that's because they nailed it in the original. They really did. And they
did.
kind of focused on Lust a bit more. Anyway, because I was trying to catch up with I think that maybe I'd read the manga and probably have a different experience. Like Lust is interesting. Like they're all really there's not a single character that feels like they're written out of character. Like
No.
everyone does something that's justified to themselves. It makes sense. Is there any one that you can think of in anime that like just seemed like you're just like, why? Like, what is this fucking villain? Like, who are they? Why are they doing this?
Why is someone doing this? Well, I guess we could talk about a really good example of a protagonist becoming a villain or a hero becoming a villain and choosing mass murder. Eren Yeager.
I mean, genocide.
You know,
Mass
mass genocide.
That's weird.
So this is such a hot topic in the anime world, right? Of like, there's a lot of people like, Eren did nothing wrong. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, he did so much wrong. It's a really fascinating. But then what I kind of found interesting at the end there, and now obviously I've had a lot of time to process it and I've watched it through twice. And, you know, we've all talked about this ad infinitum in the anime community. But like, what I did kind of like that Isayama did with him was the fact that he with Armin. Now that chat with Armin was not well handled at all, for the record. Terribly poorly handled. The one thing I liked was when
They
he was
should have
like,
kissed.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like they were going to.
that would have fixed it.
I thought it would be interesting. I think okay. I was like, well, I didn't see that going.
Yeah.
That would have, I know, that
Or
wouldn't
is
have
it-
worked.
Aren't they,
No.
That would have been like,
aren't they bringing it to like the movie theaters? So maybe there'll be like an extra 3 minutes of just making out.
hey.
I mean, I'd pay to see it.
3 unseen minutes.
Yeah.
Ooh, what could this?
Just
Okay.
Sure, why not?
but like gratuitous, just like so much mouth noise. Like,
Hey, I wouldn't be
4 minutes.
yeah. Just make you look away from the screen. Like, oh god,
like,
Okay.
genius! They fixed it.
Charlotte's like,
honestly, might give Armin some character development.
it's true, they wrecked
yeah,
him.
yeah.
But no, the one thing I liked was that at the end of the day, he was like, hey, I was just an idiot. I was just an idiot. And from the day one, he was portrayed as just being a really angry, bitter, twisted idiot. There's a whole side of like, oh, my son is special because he's born into this world. But at the end of the day, he's like, this kind of idiot got given God powers.
Yeah,
and he didn't do an Aizen Sosuke and was like, I'm 15 steps ahead of everyone. I'm not Johan. You know what I mean? He's not some like diabolical genius. He was just a bit of a dum-dum who
It's the
got
best idea he could
given
think of. Just
the
like you said,
greatest
soldier,
power, and he
yeah.
ran all the simulations, and he was like, "This is the only thing that keeps. It's the only way this is going to get anywhere close to working." And then, of course, looking the cycle of violence continuing. I've become less angry with the ending now, but again,
Good, because
I
there was a
think-
few years there you were irate.
I was furious. But also, I mean, I think
Yes.
that conversation with Armin was bad, handled poorly, and I just wish that it had been handled better. Because there are elements of it there which, like I just mentioned, are pretty cool and like pretty interesting things to explore.
I
from a
mean,
storytelling
it does make
perspective.
sense. He's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I didn't know what to do, so I did this. And you're like, she didn't think of anything else.
Yeah.
What do you mean? But yeah, no, I kind of like that too because it would have been out of character if he like 4D chessed everyone out of that system. Everyone thought he was going to Lelouch his way out of the situation.
Correct.
But he was not. He's never been a character like Lelouch. He's always acted really fucking rashly.
Yes.
Always done dumb things and been just like, Whereas Lelouch, who's from Code Geass, people haven't seen it, is a character who also is a villain in the story as well. Or is like a
Protagonist with villain
villain
qualities.
energy. He's got a wing of, it's like hero with a
Villain
wing of
energy.
villain, you know. He's a villain
With a side of
rising.
Villain, yeah.
Hero, villain rising.
Villain rising.
No, but as in, he's just like, you know, he's someone's villain, but he's also someone's hero. But he also, in the end, again, just seriously, if you see an anime name on any of the chapter titles, and you don't want to be spoiled, just skip that because again, like the ending of Code Geass, famous. We've talked about it many times. Considered one of the best anime endings or any endings of anything ever. But he inherently ends up like sacrificing himself as the villain, even though he was never really was, to bring peace for the greater good. And he was always kind of acting in a certain way.
Yes.
And he made some mistakes too. You know, he was at the end of the day a child,
Yeah.
but a really fucking smart one with with some superpowers. So that was pretty cool for him. And yeah,
So cool.
he also was like a prince and shit. You know, he had a leg up.
Yeah,
So I say he had a leg
yeah,
up. He had like
yeah.
a traumatic time where he was
Fucking
like
1%.
Nepo baby.
never baby Code Geass. Yeah, I think he's also a good example of someone with villainous energy. And like I like the way he chooses to act his villain out. You know, he's very like he's got the cape and he's got the like like Lelouch, like I'm like sick. Like that's I mean, I'm kinda like if you're gonna do an anime villain, do it like that. But I have to
Yes.
say, maybe only second to Shou Tucker, the worst anime villain I've ever seen is from a show called Peach Girl. And those who know, if you know, you know. Peach Girl is this like shoujo. I reckon it's from the 90s. You could probably watch it. Like, I think I found it on YouTube in 2008. Like, it's an old school one about a girl. It's just like a shoujo high school anime. She goes to school and, you know, is in a love triangle, yada, yada. Anyway, for some reason, Peach Girl, whose name I've forgotten now, it's a long time. All I say is that, like, the shit that her best friend pulls on her is like no other villain I've ever seen in my life. Like, this girl, I don't know how much of a grudge she holds against Protagonist, but literally her entire storyline is just like, I'm going to single-handedly ruin my fake best friend's life. And it's like the most like villainous shit you'll ever see. And I'm meant to believe this is just like a normal high school drama. I'm like, oh yeah, I hate it when my friend like pays an actor to drug me and then take pictures of me in the room and then leak them to the internet, like literally so bad. Like, not just like I spread a rumor, like I went above and beyond and put someone in danger because the boy I liked flirted with them.
Jesus.
And I'm like, the stakes are high. Shoujo, like 90s shoujo high school romance villains, they're not fucking round. Like, honestly, if they were going to go up against some of these big boys, like Aizen, I think would be fucking terrified of Peach Girl's best friend. Like, he would not know what to fucking do.
Just
she
end
would
up
be
naked on the internet. Like.
There's one weakness.
Yeah. But yeah, so there are so many, like, another incredible antagonist or villain is Akito Sohma from Fruits Basket.
Yes.
Who is, and again, this like overwhelming kind of force and more of an idea to start with. And then as the show goes along, you kind of see a very interesting, like very deeply flawed character who is because you can see how insecure they are by the time you kind of get through the thing. You feel almost sorry for them, even though they've done some, like, again, it's so hard to see. I've never had a character do so many like actively horrifying things to so many characters you love. And then by the end, me still sort of be like, kind of see, like, I kind of feel bad for you. Like, it's done very well in that way. Not that I'm justifying anything that character did do, but I think that the way they present it, it's kind of like a less black and white. Unlike Peach Girl, where they're like, this is like Johan goes to high school. Like, that is the vibe. I kind of like both. I like my characters to be complex in that way. I like to kind of understand where they're coming from and sort of see if they've like something went bad along the way. Or I like them to be just like balls to the wall, the most evil person, and it makes no sense and it's hilarious. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's why I respect. I think Lelouch and I feel the same way about that. He went, I'm going to create a villain and it's going to be fucking dumb. And I'm like, good.
Yes. Because I mean, like, you look at things like, you know, when you use the term comic book villain, you know, it's obviously used as a pejorative term in literary terms to be like two-dimensional, lame, pure evil villain. Like, a good example of something like that is the governor in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, and they actually toned him down a lot in the TV series. Like, in the comics, he is outrageous. Like, he literally basically twirls his mustache. Like, it's wild. Like, they try and justify a bit of it, but it's like, he is a really good example of a villain you love to hate. He's sadistic, he's cruel, he's callous. He is just like the worst, you know? That's a perfect example of one who's just like, that's a comic book villain. And
it's the Joker. It's
well, the Joker is interesting though.
He's never has. He's like a.
He's a watch the world burn.
Watch the world burn. Like, he's a Johan. That's the same kind of character arc there.
Yeah, he's got a lot more interesting going on, whereas the governor's just like, I enjoy inflicting cruelty.
Yeah,
but to be fair, they actually have the same, but you're not wrong. They have the same motivation at the end of the day.
Well, that's true.
Like, that actually, I think you're not right. That is the
You're not
Joker's,
wrong,
like, they're just different ways of presenting them. And we're acting like the Joker some kind of subtle, we're like, it's way more subtle. He's just like.
It's interesting because you've got, like, the archetype of, like, the Ledger Joker is like, oh, he has no fingerprints. No one knows where he is. He's got all these stories about, like, how did I get these scars? It was my father was a drunk, or the love of my life tried to kill me, blah, blah, blah. But then you've got Joaquin Phoenix Joker, who's just like, society treated me badly. And, you know, the girl I was pining on thinks I'm a creep, and my father left my wife, blah, 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 blah. So you've kind of got all these different, like, iterations of the same character, but, like, the pure malice, and then society, you know,
the outcast.
There's a lot of versions of the Joker that I think actually ring true to. We were trying to think of characters like even like Mahito, like, who were just like balls to the wall, like completely outrageous, you know, kind of like very over the top villains. Like Jack Nicholson's Joker's like that.
Oh, I love Jack.
You know what I mean? Like, he's like just ridiculous. Like he's like a Mahito of and that's kind of fun. So I guess it's cool to see there's different versions of such a beloved villain. I think people have to kind of reinvent it every time a little bit.
It's nearly 100 years old. You gotta
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it fresh.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing. Anime's just got such a broad breadth of villains or characters in general. Because of course, there's just so many different genres and so many crazy stories out there. A lot of tropes getting filled. But
Makima.
Yeah.
Great villain
yes,
from Chainsaw Man.
Oh yeah, of course.
Makima,
I
yeah,
was
but I
trying
mean,
to
like
think.
almost she's a weird one because she's not as if she's like.
The real villain's the gun devil, right?
Yeah,
like
she's not the gun devil,
But like,
yeah.
but she's still villainous as fuck. Like you're kind of like, you sus.
Oh yeah,
But the
She's
way that
fascinating.
she acts and she's creepy in that way, but very like charismatic and very measured kind of evil, which is also fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
she
it's
is
a
a
good,
fascinating character.
Yeah, it's a good villain.
Well, there's so many because, like, as I said before, villain and antagonist very different. Like, I still consider, even in going back to Monster, in my top 3 anime antagonists of all time, I actually had Lunge instead of Johan because he's not a villain. He's a by the numbers Javert type character from Les Miserables, police officer, too straight up and down the line. And of course, his character changes over the course of the time. But he's an antagonist because he's literally in an opposition of Tenma, the protagonist, for most of the show, right?
Yeah.
But I find him actually in many ways almost more interesting than Johan because he is a person. You know, I mean, like Johan's fascinating and so cool, but like almost like Griffith in a way, ethereal sort of being. Whereas Lunge is like, such a great example of someone who is just married to his job and so has such a strong ethical ideology that he cannot bend it at all to the point where it destroys his life. And then he still doesn't mind because he's chasing that ideal. But then when he has his moment at the end where he's like, he is changed. It's such good storytelling. It's such good storytelling. It takes all sorts. Like just before we wind up, my personal favorite is I prefer villains like Makishima and Lunge, characters that I can actually relate to and like agree with to a degree. The more sort of, I suppose, nemesis style conflict, like obviously the whole thing of Psychopath Season 1, it's the purest nemesis conflict you can find. Light versus L, pure nemesis conflict. Love those sorts of antagonists. Don't mind a little love to hate. Like Mahito was a really good example in Jujutsu Kaisen of someone I was just like, oh God, when that guy gets them, I'm going to be so happy. And when he got it, I was so stoked. So like,
Yeah,
do love a bit of that, but that's my preference. What about you guys?
I'm having an issue recently. I'm reading a lot of fantasy novels, right? And like romantasy novels. And there's a situation there where like I always just think that no matter what happens, the protagonists are the bad guys because they kind of are. If you put a mic, like I'm always just like the way you run this society, this fairy world is awful. It's like fascist, and like the villain was sort of right. But then I'm like the worst part is that the author can't seem to see that. So that's my least favorite thing when it's like the villain is like accidentally right. It's like Rent the musical. Where it turns out that the villain was actually the hero because he's like, hey guys, sorry, this is a real tangent. They're like, we don't want to pay rent. And he's like, oh, no, all good guys. Like you can stay in this warehouse and but like for a little bit that I own, I'm going to make an arts precinct, but can you pay a little bit of rent? You're like 4 years behind, but we can just like give you a discount. And they're like, fuck you, you sold out. I'm like, did he?
Knock. Yeah.
I was like, I think he's trying pretty hard here, guys. And you're all really annoying and clearly super rich.
Yeah.
Like you're clearly from money. I can't, sorry. Red, the true villains
Roger.
are all of the main characters of Red.
Roger, Maureen, Mark, all of them.
So my least favorite type of villain is one that makes complete sense not in like a deliberate way. But my favorite type of villain, as I said before, I think I just can't get past the stupid ones, like the ridiculous ones.
You love it. So you love the
like,
stupid ones,
or the like just pure evil.
Yeah.
I love Johan and Griffith because I'm just like, yes, so evil. And all the hot ones that we talked about before too.
I like the hot ones.
Yeah.
Just the hot villains. I think it's just such a spectrum. Like,
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm not going to have just chocolate ice cream all the time. I'm going to have vanilla over here and stuff like that. So I like my villains to be big and bombastic. Like I love a Frieza that's just like pure evil. But then, I'm happy with a bit more cerebral villainy as well. Just good characters. Tell a good story.
What kind of villains sell?
Evil.
Just pure. Dragon Ball, them all just.
They're all just like.
They're all the same.
Vegeta's interesting.
Vegeta's interesting.
Vegeta's a great
Vegeta's the most interesting one, and Piccolo as well. Similar sort of character arc.
Fascinating.
But yeah, most of those like Majin Buu and stuff.
They're all
That is
the
like
same,
they just want to destroy the universe and be the strongest.
Yeah.
It's pretty pain by the numbers, but God, we love it.
Yeah.
So
hey,
Yeah.
makes sense. It makes more sense than red. So I'm glad about this.
Thank you so much, everyone. That has been our episode on anime villains. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, let us know who your favorite villains are. Comment below. Send us an email at hello@gatewaytoanime.com. Just we love hearing from you all. So tell us about your favorite villains, what makes them interesting, who we've missed. Of course, there are so many, and we've deliberately left a lot out because
So many.
we'd be here for 7 hours. So we're not going to do that. But thank you so much for listening, everyone. We really appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, you can find us on Patreon. Every little bit counts. And over on Patreon, we do things like extra episodes, behind the scenes footage, early release. You can join for as little as $1.50 a month. Really does help the cause. Otherwise, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please give us a little 5-star review, or if you really like it, write one. Does help. Even just say, great stuff, guys. Really helps. Well, thanks again to this episode's sponsor, Mercari. Unique collectible items directly from Japan. Head on over to their website, Mercari X Japan. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode. Link is in the bio. Check it out.
This week on Patreon, we are talking about which anime villain we would put up against the original Avengers.
Okay.
Check it
I did
out.
not know that.
No one did until just then.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I might join the Patreon for that one. Surprise.
Surprise, everyone.
Anyways, I'm Sam, Charlie, Graeme. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll catch you all next time. See you soon.